Fionna found herself in spirit form as a familiar bright light engulfed her. She was not afraid. She knew EJ was here even though she didn't see him with her eyes. The light tingled in a familiar way across her body, quickening her breath. Fionna made her way over the vast green towards a figure sitting on the ground. The air was thick with the pungent smell of damp soil and wet dew on flowers. "I know this seems like a dream to you, Fionna." EJ's voice whispered in her head. "I have brought you into the threshold." Fionna felt EJ's words echo across her skin. "This is where the unknown waits. Your kin has not yet entered the void's path. I hold this way open for you. Do not stray into the darkness," EJ pleaded with her. Fionna nodded as she looked up towards the bright glow that she now knew was Ijlam. She felt confident as she headed out across the green. Here we are, right in the thick of it, as Fionna and EJ attempt a rescue of the body they found on the island. The guys are probably correct in the fact that this could be a total disaster. One thing they do agree on is that they need to do all they can for this survivor. My name is Karleigh. I am reading from the Tales of Eldelórne trilogy, Book 1. Chapter 24, Dark Garden. If you're tuning in for the first time, I'd like to encourage you to go back to the beginning because it is a story, and I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. But hey, grab a drink and come on and sit by the hearth as we hear the rest of the story. "Hello," Fionna said quietly as she approached the stranger. "I am your kin." She tried to introduce herself to the tiny elf who sat hunched over and cross-legged in the grass. "This must be who we came for," Fionna said in her thoughts, knowing EJ somehow heard her in this place. The edge of the green was thick with flowers. Fionna mumbled about how it seemed like she was in the Misty Island garden as she took a better look at her surroundings. The light in the place flickered strangely, but the elf didn't seem to notice. Her kin looked up. Fionna now realized the elf was female. She regarded Fionna with curiosity. "Will you speak to me?" Fionna sat down directly in front of the girl. "You do not even know what I am saying, do you?" Fionna gently took up her hands and peered into the elf girl's greenish-gray eyes. "Our eyes are almost the same." Fionna was startled by the familiar look to the girl's face. Her own eyes were darker green, but you could not deny they were somehow related. The girl's thin nose ended in a tiny, perky tip. Her lips were more delicate than Fionna's and curved upward with a deep dimple on each side. Fionna could see the girl's woodland ears that pointed sharply upward on the top folds. She wore a long tunic with the patterns they saw stitched around the neckline and sleeves. She was fairy-like in her ethereal beauty, sitting there in this glowing light. "Am I all that is left here?" the girl sighed to herself, tiredly lowering her eyes. As Fionna heard the girl's dialect, she could tell it was different but understandable. After a pause, Fionna spoke in the girl's tongue. "No, I am here. You must hear me." The impassive girl looked at Fionna more closely now. "Who are you?" she said curiously. "I am your kin," Fionna answered. "Were you lost?" The girl sounded annoyed. "Yes, I was lost in Velavar," Fionna quickly answered again. "I've not heard of that place in a very long time. I am alone." The girl sighed again and lowered her eyes. "No, I am here. I wish for you to stay with me," Fionna tried to convince her. "Then we shall both fade together in this lonely place." The girl glared at Fionna, just like all the rest. "My clan has all gone away, and I do not know in which direction to follow." The girl grieved at the loss of her kin and friends. "We sat here, in each other's company among the flowers. 'Twas many fine hour we spent talking, till, one by one, I noticed them disappeared. What does it mean?" She looked up confused at Fionna. An icy chill ran down Fiona's back as she realized this was the last survivor of whatever had overtaken them on the island. She had been clinging to life with her friends in this cruel dreamscape, waiting for rescue that never would come. The girl sat with a perplexed look, searching to see her friends and family again, but they were no longer there to comfort her. They had all found the true death as their bodies turned to stone in that accursed sward. "I should go with them," she mumbled sadly. "You are not alone. There are more Edelin where I come from. Please come with me," Fionna tried to explain to her as she pulled on the girl's hands, making her stand up. "What is your name?" Fionna politely asked. The girl just stared tiredly at her. They sauntered hand in hand through the garden's edge. Fionna patiently waited for her answer. The girl's golden brown hair flowed out long and wavy. She had tiny braids along the side near her ears. Fionna wondered if that was her own family tradition of braid style. "I am not sure," the girl finally spoke. She sounded weary. Fionna couldn't tell if she was not sure of her name or if she was not sure about coming away with her. The lights surrounding them took on a dismal feel, like the silence before a rainstorm. A creeping terror paralyzed Fionna as she realized the familiar light was gone. She called out to Ijlam, "Turn your face to me." She heard his voice so far away. EJ had been desperately trying to get her attention as she faded on the path. "Ijlam, where are you?" Fionna heard herself bleeding into the darkness. She focused on moving in the direction she thought Ijlam's voice came from. She had let her own thoughts wander and take them in the wrong direction. The wobbling girl held Fiona's hand, following and pulling and stumbling, as Fionna picked her way quickly through the growing darkness. She then saw it, a tiny glimmer in the distance. She could feel EJ clutching his chest in great pain. "No, EJ, what's wrong? No, do not leave me in this place." In desperation, Fionna took off running, with the girl dragging like an anchor on her arm. The undercurrent turned into black, suffocating sheets like water that engulfed the two. Not daring to even blink, Fionna tried to focus on the spark of light in the distance. The thick torrent pressed in, but she kept moving in one direction. Fionna had to get back to EJ now. More than this darkness, something was wrong with him. She felt it in her heart. Suddenly, Fionna could hear Rovash yelling, his booming voice shaking her into action. She reached out with her arm to clasp into his waiting grip, somehow knowing it was there through this storm. Running full speed, she flew off the edge into a vast chasm. Fionna lost her chance to catch up and was falling, screaming. Blood pounded in her ears as she flailed into the dark, swirling abyss. Fionna hit hard and burst out the other side, gasping into the full light of the bedroom. Her eyes blinked wide, struggling for air. "Come back!" Rovash's loud, commanding voice was filled with terror, shaking her firmly by the shoulders, willing her to breathe. "EJ, where's EJ?" She choked as she pulled free of his hands and reeled around looking for him. Ejlum lay in a frozen gasp, clutching his chest. She rolled over the elf girl's body to the other side of the bed on top of him. She enfolded him, heart to heart, in her arms. Rovash quickly picked them both up out of the bed and in one swift motion whisked them away into the other room. He laid them gently in the middle of the great room floor. "What happened? What went wrong?" Fionna was holding EJ to herself, not knowing how to revive him. "The elf did not want to live," Rovash said excessively loud. Fear etched on his face. "I knew something was wrong when you stopped breathing and my brother started to feel pain. By the gods, he's faded." Rovash cried at the sight of his brother lying there, pale and lifeless. He stumbled and fell back against the wall, rubbing his sweating forehead. He instinctively started chanting a prayer of protection that he had learned from their mother as an elfling. He invoked the aid of their tree home and all its clan. Unheard voices groaned silently in a song of healing that flowed out unseen over their beloved elves. "Ejlum, hear me. Come back to me." Fionna looked into his empty, staring eyes. Her own breath choked in her throat. Her heart felt as though it was ripping away from her body. "I did not mean to lose you. I found the light. I found your light," Fionna said over and over as she pressed her wet face against his. She slid across his salty cheek until her head banged on the floor beside him. "No, gods, no!" She weakly moaned as she hung there limp. An icy cold emptiness was drawing them both away. With a last frantic effort, Fionna reared up, and with a guttural, primal scream, she pounded EJ's chest hard with both her fists, and then wholly collapsed in silence. Ro's eyes grew huge at the sight of it. Thinking this was the end, Rovash was relieved to hear loud rasping breaths as both their lungs filled with air and they came back to life together. "My Fionna," EJ's weak words wheezed out of bloodless lips. "I have found her for you," his voice barely audible. Everyone was too exhausted to understand what he meant by that. Ejlum stiffly stared up at the ceiling as the trauma slowly wore off. Fionna keened in relief, still embracing him tightly as a rain of hot tears fell over his shoulder. Ro fell back onto his heels and wiped the sweat off his face. "Praise the trees," Rovash shook his head in relief. "And praise to the gods as well." Rovash was not afraid to give credit where he thought credit was due. Something heavy fell to the floor in the other room, grabbing their attention. Fionna looked at Ro with a puzzled look on her face. Rovash quickly stood up and drew his dagger, ready to defend his weakened kin that could not yet move. A small naked girl looking like a wraith stumbled through the doorway. She stood there only a moment with huge blinded eyes. Ro sheathed his knife in one swift motion and ran forward to catch her just before her knees gave way and she fell to the floor. What just happened? Fiona's body was shaking uncontrollably. She lay with her head nestled in EJ's shoulder. The two managed to make their way back to Thendiel's empty room so they could lie down on a soft bed to recuperate. We should not have even tried. I know that now. Fionna frowned as she babbled on in shock at what had just happened. The poor girl and her clan were clinging to life for so long, waiting for release from that place. Why would she try to kill me? Fionna instinctively poked EJ's cheek with her nose. It just seemed so blindly important at the time, she scowled to herself, not expecting answers. It is the voices of the cursed that haunted you, EJ breathed. I too could hear them and feel their call. That place has fallen by some dark magics. Fionna shared the girl's dialect with EJ. He had heard it somewhere before, but under the circumstances, he could not even think from where. Maybe these were ones who found themselves refugees from the elven warrior Logren, who turned on his own clan. EJ gave her a short history. Logren and his followers ritually committed the crime of kinslaying on many clans of the Edelin. They attacked their kin and kind? Fionna was horrified. Long ago, at the beginning of the Elven Kingdoms, yes. Remember the depths of sorrow, Fionna. Then EJ thought of something else. Maybe when the migration to Ilmatar started, these island elves felt abandoned and just gave up. Maybe there is another reason. He was tired of thinking and had to sleep. His head felt dizzy and heavy as he lay against the soft pillows. Fiona's persistent voice kept pulling him awake from his drowsiness. EJ, what happened to us? The healing place turned hostile. I couldn't find my way back to you. We are heart bonded, Fionna. The girl did not want to live. She was confused. It was my fear that she would pull you with her into the void. I will die, Fionna, if you die. He looked at her through one half-opened eye as he said it. What? I was dying? Fionna asked. Yes. Heart bonded? What does that mean? Fionna asked again. We are forever bound together. It is thought to be a most precious gift of Ilmatar, although I'm not so certain now that it is such a good thing, EJ mumbled. We pledged ourselves to each other with a vow so precious the lords took heed and turned their eyes upon us. EJ gave up sleeping to look at Fionna. The room had grown dark in the evening air, and the warm breeze seeped in, and it felt good on his skin. I am joyed to be with you in this way, Fionna. EJ pushed himself up on one elbow to face her confusion. It just means we must be more thoughtful of our actions in the future. We share the same heart? How is that even possible? Fionna whispered as she placed her hand gently to his breast. She could feel a heartbeat in a rhythm that perfectly matched her own. The events of the past day came crashing down upon Fionna in realizing what a close call they just had. I only see you in the light, Fionna, EJ said. His soft eyes regarded her earnestly as he tipped her chin up to look into her eyes. She stroked his head lovingly, feeling the straight strands of his golden hair slide through her fingertips. I only see you, my love. She kissed him deeply, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers as their hearts beat as one. Thank you for listening to Tales of Eldelórne. It seems our friends Rovash, Fionna, and EJ are doing the best they can without any elder guidance. Maybe that's why the guys defer to Fionna quite often, because she reminds them of their mother. She does have some non-typical elven talents, like talking to trees and interpreting languages without any previous knowledge. As time goes on, we'll find out more about that, I'm sure. In the meantime, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Elvish lesson of the day. Mibonin means kiss me. Ego miboglamog means go kiss an orc. If you remember a lesson from the past, the word ego is never meant in a nice way. Why you would tell someone to go kiss an orc, I don't know. But today we're just going to say, Mibonin, give her a kiss already. Mibonin. Thank you for listening. You can join me in more adventures if you press the follow button. I will personally send you a new episode every Thursday, so you can hear the rest of the story. Till next time, bye-bye. This is Karleigh signing out.